All right, First Timothy 5, how to generally treat people in the church, and specifically, and it'll show us a very tight view of benevolence, a very stringent view on benevolence. And so I think it's a tough subject. And Doug, you and I have talked about that on many occasions, And so, all right, let's jump into it. If you would read verses 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Yep.
Do not rebuke an older man, but encourage him as you would a father. Younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters in all purity.
I wish that some of the younger guys were here for tonight's sharing. No, they're very respectful to us, obviously, but it's interesting that it does say, it starts with older men. Don't rebuke them harshly. But it's we got to remember too. This is a pastoral epistle, and so it's to a pastor, to Timothy. And one guy brought out that unfortunately pastors have to, in many ways, rebuke somebody who they're having to confront with sin. Hey brother, I see this in you. You really need to stop or whatever. But in all of these situations, notice that it's a direct reference to the first organization, which was the family. And so we all understand the family. So, okay, how do we treat each other? Well, we treat each other as family. So, and somebody that we care for, that we love, that we're going to sacrifice for and take care of. And so that's his perspective, and that's what he shares. So pretty good advice, I think, in how we are to get along with each other.
Right.
I will read, let's see here. It's kind of a long section here. We're going to talk about widows. I'm going to do 3 through 6. It's not the completion of the section, but it's enough to read. Honor widows who are truly widows. But if a widow has children or grandchildren, let them first learn to show godliness to their own household and to make some return to their parents, for this is pleasing in the sight of God. She who is truly a widow, left all alone, has set her hope on God and continues in supplications and prayers night and day. But she who is self-indulgent is dead even while she lives. All right. One fella by the name of David Gusick, I believe, brought out, I think wisely, that this he's honing in on widows, but the entire concept is even bigger. So it's anyone who says they're in need. Okay, then later on, we're going to see he breaks out some pretty stringent requirements for the church to take on the responsibility of that person. And but in this case, widows in this time, and we've talked about this before, were really left out in the cold. If their sons died, their husband died, they had no support. This was not a woman honoring society, and other than God's word. And so if they were truly widows, somebody needed to take care of them because they had no legal rights. So they were truly begging. And I guess I'll say this now, but there was a system, evidently by inference. What Paul brings out is that there was a system to where if it was an older lady, she was a widow, she would agree to basically work for the church and be like a prayer warrior for the church. Who knows what else she did? Maybe cooking or whatever else the church needed. But there was some sort of an oath that they may have made to get on this list. And we'll see evidence of that here in just a minute. So if you would read, I was going to say honor. It's not honor as in pull them up on stage and give them honor, give them an award or something. It's as in afford the appropriate support to.
Providing for.
Huh?
In my book, it says providing for.
Yeah, providing for.
To honor them is the same thing as providing for. Don't leave them desolate.
Right, exactly. So honor can be a confusing word there. So
right.
Providing for them. So if you would read 7 and 8, please.
7 and 8. Command these things as well, so that they may be without reproach. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Ooh, that's pretty hard.
That's pretty harsh, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your parents are alive, grandparents are alive, you need to take care of them for sure. No doubt. There is no question here whatsoever.
Right.
Let's see my notes here. Yep, not yet. 9, I'm going to read 9 to 12. Let a widow be enrolled if she is, notice the word enrolled there. So it's something that is very official. There's a list, Let a widow be enrolled if she is not less than 60 years of age. We're starting to list requirements, specific hardcore wooden requirements. 60 years of age, having been the wife of one husband, and having a reputation of good works, if she has brought up children, has shown hospitality, has washed the feet of the saints, has cared for the afflicted, has devoted herself to every good work, but refused to, I'll stop right there.
Okay.
List. That's,
yeah.
I don't know of a lot of people that meet that requirement, even today. He probably didn't mean for all that to be that wooden, but the concept is this is a worker in the church who now is desolate, desperate. Are those the right words?
Yeah.
Is in great need, and even with an age requirement, has no other choice. Okay, we can take care of her now. One fella, Gary Hamrick, said that the average lifespan. I wouldn't even bring this up, but actually several guys said it, but Gary brought it out, especially strong. The average lifespan in that day was 37, which seems awfully low, but I don't know. I heard it from multiple sources.
They didn't have the medicine and all the things that they had, at this point here to extend the life. And I mean, in the Old Testament, we saw people lived a lot longer. Well, the men did anyway,
Yeah. He said that if you equate it to the average lifespan today, 37, then 60 then would be like 130 today. So I think that's extreme, but I mean, if you go proportionally,
right.
So it'd be somebody who is pretty old. There is no other option for this person. No family. They were hard workers in the church. They lived a moral lifestyle, and they're super, super, super old, and they have no other options. All right, take care of them. You know.
See, and also one of the things that it points out here also is that basically those requirements are the same thing as what is required to be a deacon.
Good point.
It says, having been the wife of one husband is the feminine form of a phrase in the requirements for overseers and deacons. The interpreters think that the point here, as in chapter 3, is marital faithfulness.
Good point. Good point. Excellent comment. Let's see here. If you would do 11, 11 to 13.
11 through 13.
Yeah.
Okay. But refuse to enroll younger widows, for when their passions draw them away from Christ, they desire to marry and so incur condemnation for having abandoned their former faith. Besides that, they learn to be idlers, going about from house to house, and not only idlers, but also gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not.
So here again, it implies there is a commitment when somebody entered this widow's list, to be on the widow's list. There is some sort of commitment, yet maybe saying, I'm not going to marry again, that type of thing, because he said they so incur condemnation for having abandoned their former faith. That's pretty rough. And I don't know, there's really no evidence that I've seen that what exactly they had to say or do or write or sign or what, but they weren't supposed to be married again, obviously, if they entered the service of the church. And it's almost like a nun, I guess, right? Maybe that's where the Catholic Church gets this. I bet this is where the Catholic Church gets the idea. Interesting. They don't meet. They blew away the age limit, but interesting. I hadn't thought of that before. One guy brought out on 13. That's kind of like old school social media, the busybodies saying what they shouldn't.
The gossips.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, 14 and 16. So I would have younger widows marry, bear children, manage their households, and give the adversary no occasion for slander. For some have already strayed after Satan. If any believing woman has relatives who are widows, let her care for them. Let the church not be burdened, so that it may care for those who are truly widows. So, got a younger widow. It suggested that she just marry somebody else and press on.
See, what I'm seeing here is they're also, it's like they're kind of looking at the fact that a younger widow still has the opportunity for quality of life and faith. Okay. She can still remarry. She can still have children. She can still take care of her house. Whereas a widow that's over 60, there's the chances of her being remarried and having a successful family or productive family from that point on are a lot less likely,
Yeah.
So we don't want to just leave her to the wolves, so to speak, in her old age.
Yeah.
Whereas these younger ones, they can still find something there.
Right. Right.
Would I be wrong in saying that?
Nope. I think you're right on target. And it's, again, we're looking at it from a wooden perspective, inflexible. From a broader perspective, can we not relate it to somebody who's asking for help from the church? And that was the perspective, who brought that out? I think Paul Boutilier brought that out. And a few of the others, actually, David Gusick, that somebody in need, we're called to help the needy, but we're also called, especially according to this, to be very careful with not enabling somebody for the wrong purposes. And who was it? Somebody said this. David Gusick said this. He says, when somebody comes to the church in need or on the street or whatever, he says, I quoted this. He says, yeah, here's $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever. And he says, is it okay that I pray for you? And they always say, sure. Yeah, I love this. He says, he prays for this person. No, he said, here's what he said. I pray that if this person really needs this money, that you would bless it for what it's intended. But I also pray that this money would be a curse if they are going to use it for the wrong purpose. And they wouldn't ever see another donation again for a long time. And he said one person actually denied taking the donation. So, I don't want it if that's what it's going to have on it.
That makes a lot of sense there.
It does. It does. And I think I haven't tried that yet, but I fully intend.
But somebody like Dwayne or some of these people that are always seeking benevolence, you could use that same scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how strong they are in their faith, would determine whether or not they would use it rightfully or go out and use it wrongly.
Yeah. So thought that was interesting. But benevolence is always a big challenge, because you want to do the right thing, but you don't want to enable somebody going in the wrong direction. So that's right. Tough. And a lot of it says if you put it in a benevolence box, this section we just read, it basically says, if you're not doing right and you haven't served the church, then we can't help you. If we look at it real woodenly, that's what it says. I don't know that we want to go that far, but we need to be careful with the funds that we give, particularly funds that we give from the church, for sure.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Tough subject.
Even us as individuals. You want to be careful in the way that you do it, because it's so easy to try and help somebody and then think later on about it and figure, what I did might not so much have been a help, but a situation of enabling.
Yeah.
Did I go about it the right way?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so often it's easier to give cash because it's quick and easy, as opposed to driving through, getting some food, talking to them for a while. That's tough.
Right. You can find your true intent by doing that. Because I've done that several times. Somebody, when I was working at the church, somebody come up, knock on the door.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten in 3 days. Can you give me some money? And he said, well, I said, I can do better than that. I said, we can jump in the truck and I'll ride you down to Wendy's and I'll buy you 2 meals or
Yeah.
whatever. We can have a little conversation. We can say a prayer together.
Mhm.
Well, no. I don't need for you to drive me down to Wendy's. I just say, he says, I need to get some money so I can buy some food for my house. Well, where do you live? Well, he says, I live with some friends down here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're getting, we're getting somewhere, but we're getting nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes there's a pretty good game going on, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, all right, if you would read 17 and 18.
17 and 18. Let the elders who rule well be considered worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in preaching and teaching. For the scripture says, you shall not muzzle an ox when it treads out the grain, and the laborer deserves his wages.
Well, pay for your pastors. Take care of them. Everybody thinks it's an easy job. It's not an easy job. It's a tough job. You're dealing with people, trying to lead people. That's tough spiritually.
Right.
19, do not admit a charge against an elder except on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. As for those who persist in sin, rebuke them in the presence of all, so that the rest may stand in fear. So, you know what? They're human and they are targeted by Satan. And so when and if they fall, we need to be careful when we accuse a pastor, an elder. There was a situation we had at a former location we were in where there was an affair, and it was found out, that type thing, and we really had to step through Matthew 18 carefully, where they're approached, by in person, and then 2 people, and then the congregation, and so try to be very, very careful. And then you add on top of that the legal requirements of our politically correct society and lawyers. And so it was a minefield for the deacons for a while. That was very, very difficult. But you know what? People fall. That happens.
We're all human.
We're all human.
Yeah.
And that's one of the major things that the church did was, we had to let him go. There was no question about that. But we offered him counseling, appropriate counseling that we would pay for, to try to rehabilitate and try to do the right thing, but again, people are frail.
Mm-hmm.
21, in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus and of the elect angels, I charge you to keep these rules without prejudging, doing nothing from partiality. It's so hard for us to be objective. We have opinions and perspectives and worldviews, and so we really need to, when we're in these situations, pray for impartiality and objectivity from the Spirit, because that, again, we're human, and that is so hard. If you would read 22.
Do not be hasty in the laying on of hands, nor take part in the sins of others. Keep yourself pure.
Commentators said that this more relates to it could further goes back to the elders, and kind of don't make an elder too quick, and it'll continue in that concept in the verses to come, but we don't lay on hands, don't ordain too quickly.
Yeah, my commentary says don't be hasty.
Yeah, don't be hasty to get somebody in the position. We lack a position. Don't fill it quickly. You know.
Right.
So he says, and then this little parenthetical statement here, out of the blue. I don't see how it fits, but no longer drink only water, but use a little wine for the sake of your stomach and your frequent ailments. Of course, this is right to Timothy, but just kind of stuck right in the middle there. All right. So that's pretty interesting. So go ahead and do 24 or 25.
Okay, I was just looking at my commentary on that.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Like you said, that just seemed. Drive around the block 3 times, and by the way, don't forget to stop at the roller skating rink.
Right? It's like, yeah, that was so funny.
It doesn't really. It says Paul returns to the issue of carefulness in appointing of elders. I mean, like, don't just drink water and get through this. Sit back and enjoy a glass of wine and give it some thought.
Well, seriously, evidently Timothy had some sort of ailment. Maybe he had a worm or something. I don't know. Maybe Paul thought the alcohol would, of course, their alcohol, I understand, was not nearly as high alcohol content as what we have today, and I've heard that their drinking water was often bad,
Well, and that was the thing. I've read things where it said that many times they would, even as they drank water, they would drink or sip from wine because the alcohol would kill the bacteria in the water. Okay, so yeah.
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
Okay.
Why it belongs right there, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. 24?
Yeah. And 5.
And 5. Okay. The sins of some people are conspicuous, going before them to judgment, but the sins of others appear later. So also good works are conspicuous, and even those that are not cannot remain hidden.
I like these particular statements. You got to think about them for just a minute. Basically, everything's going to come to light sooner or later. So in the process of making an elder and ordaining an elder, the commentaries think this is what he's intending to say. In that process, take your time, because eventually everything the guy has done is going to come to light.
Right.
So good and bad.
Well, it's like I've learned since I've started studying all this, that we may be able to hide something from one another, but there's no hiding anything from him. So why try? So
yeah, and he's the only one that counts anyway.
That's it.
So good little chapter on how to treat each other in the church. I think treat each other as family. Be careful when you're making somebody an elder, and be especially careful when you are taking on somebody for life, I guess, like in this situation, a widow. What do you sign in the church up to do, I guess? I think that was the
make your list and check it twice.
Make your list and check it twice. That's right. So there we go. There is 1 Timothy 5.